So I printed my SAT scores, my university transcript, and all the supporting documents I needed to get into university. But before I show you all that, I want to share a little bit about my high school journey and like my high school experience, just briefly. Then I'll show you everything, and then we can talk about a little bit of my university experience, and then I'll show you my university transcript. To start off, I was homeschooled from my whole life, from kindergarten to high school, and I am now working as a software developer for a Fortune 500 tech company. And yeah, I just thought this might be an interesting video to make. I certainly would have wanted to see a video like this, or even an article, or even someone's little back of the napkin notes on what their scores look like. You know, what did you provide to get into university? There wasn't a lot I found back in 2017, so this is when I applied to university. So from the age of 12 to 17, I basically self-studied almost all subjects by myself. And when I was 15 or 16, I was sick of living where I was living. I was homeschooled in Indonesia, and during my high school years, I lived in this touristy beach town, and I wanted to get out of there as fast as I can. So I think when I was 15, I started studying for the SATs, and I was going to take my SATs when I was 16, and my passport was expired, and my dad said to go to the test center anyway, which was in an international school in Jakarta. So I went anyway, and they wouldn't let me in because my passport was expired. So that took another couple of months to renew my passport, and then I booked another test to do the SATs, and I think maybe by that time I was 17, or I actually have one. Yes, I just turned 17. So I have the date on the SAT paper. I just used secondhand used SAT workbooks, which were actually built based on the old SATs, and they have a new format now, and their grading system is new. And so my resources were those outdated SAT textbooks, and then I also used Khan Academy's SAT guide. I'll put a screenshot of what that looks like. It's just like an online education platform that is completely free. So those are just like the key details of my high school experience, in that I was self-studying for school, for high school, and then self-studying to take the SATs. So let's start with my SAT score. So as a homeschooler, I think it's pretty common to, and by the way, if you're thinking like, oh, why weren't you researching more about how to get into university as a homeschooler, get more information? And I don't know why, but I don't think there's like a lot of information back then about homeschoolers getting to university online and stuff. I'm not exactly sure. So if you're looking at my application and thinking, wow, that is not enough, or wow, that is so like bare minimum, basically, that is why. And I got help from my dad in coming up with my application, and this is what he thinks was enough to send to universities. This is the score report. I luckily found it in my email archives because I couldn't log into College Board because I forgot my password, but I luckily found it. But you can kind of see on the top there, it says January 21, 2017. Okay, so my total score was 1290 out of 1600. And below it, it says I was the 90th nationally representative sample percentile, and I was the 85th SAT user percentile national. Okay, right beneath the score below are some like percentile scores, and on the side it says a percentile is a number between 1 and 99 that shows how your score ranks compared to other students. it represents the percentage of students whose scores are equal to or below yours. For example, if your math score percentile is 57, that means 57% of test takers have math scores equal to or below yours. And you'll see 2 percentiles that I'm about to share. So I ranked 90th on the nationally representative sample percentile, which shows how your score compares to the scores of all US students in your grade, including those who don't typically take the test. And then I ranked 85th on the SAT user percentile national, which shows how your score compares to the scores of students who typically take the test. Yeah, so there are my rankings and my section scores. So in reading and writing, I got 670, which is out of 800, and my math score is 620, which is also out of 800. And for the reading and writing, I ranked 93rd in the nationally representative sample, and then 89th on the SAT user percentile. And then for math, I got 85th on the national representative sample, and then 79th on the SAT user percentile. And you can see these check marks, which show that I've met the benchmark. So next, I'll share the test scores in each of the categories. So my test scores, I got 31 in reading. These are all out of 40, by the way. So 31 in reading, 36 in writing and language, and 31 in math. So my highest was writing and language. And I won't go one by one over the cross-test scores or the sub-scores, but you can just pause the video and look at it. What's interesting is that my highest sub-scores was 15 out of 15 in expression of ideas and 10 out of 15 in problem solving and data analysis. So that's funny because I studied math and computer science at university, and I wanted to specialize in data science, so I took like a data science course and a bunch of statistics course. So that's that. So the next thing that was part of my university application was a list of my textbooks, which I gave the textbooks that I learned from to my dad, and then he formatted it like this. Okay, now I removed my mic and I just clipped it onto the tripod that I have. So hopefully the audio will still be good. So next thing I have is like painless theory and problems of college algebra, painless algebra, GCSE mathematics, and then I only put like chapter 5 because that's the only chapter I learned from it. And 2 physics textbooks and like a writing textbook, a DOM scripting textbook. And then the last one, my dad added this. It said miscellaneous reading and video viewing in history, social affairs, psychology, economics, and other interesting subjects. About 2,000 pages over 3 years. Yeah, I don't know what to say about that one. What? No, that's too loud. Here. Okay, so next thing on my university application was a list of reading material that I did. These are just fiction and nonfiction books that I read. And I'm just gonna read out a few that I did read. Actually, I'll show all of it on the screen and then you can pause the video and snoop around. So, the first one was The Art of Making Sense by Lionel Ruby. I read How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. I read like classics like To Kill a Mockingbird, and I read Lord of the Flies, which I mentioned in my previous video. I read The Pearl. And number 43, I read Trump, The Art of the Deal by Donald Trump. Yeah. A lot of different like fiction and nonfiction books. Okay, the last thing I'm going to share, which is pretty embarrassing. So the last thing I'm going to share is my resume. They asked me to make a resume. So my dad wanted me to write it like this. It's really embarrassing. And but I'll show it anyway. At the top, it says objective, to seek a higher education in mathematics. Under education, I was homeschooled in Indonesia. Have done the SAT reasoning test. Fluent first speaker in English and Indonesian. Went on a group hike to study rocks near hot springs. Went on a group tour to local electricity generating plants. Both were not organized by my father, and we were just tagging along with other people. Work experience, current English tutor. The second point, took care of dying grandmother, 2 months. Waitress at a cafe during holiday. General tutor for 9-year-old. Okay, it hurts to read this. It hurts because I have watched and learned so much about how to craft a resume, and this is just embarrassing. Okay, next thing, hobbies. Surfing, which I did a lot. Like, I did surfing for probably 3 or 4 years while I was living there in that surf town. And the next thing is scuba diving. I did scuba diving 1 time. And I did not become licensed or instructor. I just followed my best friend's dad, and he taught us how to scuba dive. Piano. Yeah, I was not a great piano player. Sewing. Yeah, I sucked at sewing, but I did love it. And I could make a pair of pants, and I could make shirts, but and at one time I wanted to go to sewing school in Indonesia, but that hobby cannot be on this. The sewing hobby cannot be listed on a resume. And at the bottom, HTML, which I don't know why it's on there. Just my dad listed off this stuff. Okay. Yeah, that last thing really, yeah. Anyway, as I was saying, universities are, I think on average, they're looking for homeschoolers that are doing well academically. And second of all, and I think the most important thing, is that universities want to see homeschool applicants that it's clear that it shows what they're passionate in, because they have all this extra time. And what did you do with that extra time? Did you start an Etsy store and sold more than 1,000 items? Did you compete in surfing competitions, more than 100 surfing competitions, and won gold or something? Or did you start a local business, like a local bakery, and you had more than 100 customers each month? Maybe that's too much. Maybe more than 50 customers per month. And were you passionate about video games, and did you design your own video game, published it, and it got more than 1,000 users? I'm making these numbers small on purpose to show you, it doesn't take much to show universities that you were doing something meaningful with your extra time that is not through school. And based on my resume, it doesn't show where I put that extra time. I don't want to sound whining or complaining in this video, but if you ask me where my time went during my high school years, it was literally just family responsibilities, like chore responsibilities. That's where my time went. And it wasn't that I wasn't passionate in things. It was just the lack of resources. Okay, I was able to put my daughter down, and you may not agree with me in that a homeschooler university application should show that they were passionate about something and they did something that was unique and that stands out in a way. But personally, I think, homeschooling should be a bit different. And universities, they accept thousands of applications a day. You need to stand out, not just for a homeschooler, but for anyone. So the reason why I want to share my university transcript is because now I am in Canada, and there's more resources now. I have access to a university level library. I have access to professors, and I have full access to the internet now. Before, like, I couldn't use the computer all the time. Like, I had a limited time on my computer for doing research and studying and such. I just think it might be useful to show, like, the transition of how well I did in university based on my homeschooling experience. Just like a brief overview of my university experience. After the first semester, I realized I was really overwhelmed and not sure, like, what exactly I was doing. In the first semester of university, I focused on friends and trying new experiences like clubs and such, and I didn't take doing my assignments seriously, especially in calculus, which you'll see. I applied to be a math major in university, and then on the day before classes started, there was this academic orientation, and the dean of science was explaining that you can spice up your degree by doing a double major, and he said doing a double major with computer science, for example. I went to my academic advisor, which is just another math professor, and I told him I want to double major in computer science, and it went through. So on the first day of classes, I was able to take Introduction to Programming 1. Literally, I did not know anything about computer science when I asked to switch, except that I did HTML, but I inherently knew that I would be able to get more job opportunities if I did a double major in computer science. And by the way, there's only one student that had a double major in computer science. There were no other students doing this. Yeah, I think in my second or third year, I switched my majors around. So before I was a math major, then computer science major. And by the way, having a double major is different than having a minor. Then I switched around to have computer science as my first major and math as my second major so that I could avoid taking abstract math courses. Instead, I focused on taking statistical math courses. Second year of university was really hard, but I did not prioritize friends anymore. And by third and fourth year, I just fully focused on my studies. I did do cheerleading, which I think was my only club that I joined in my second year. And by third year, I kept this volunteering stuff till the end of 3 years. So I did 2 volunteering things. And then by fourth year, COVID happened and there was nothing that we could do. Sorry for the extremely chaotic video, but my homeschooling experience was chaotic. So I hope that the environment that I am in kind of reflects that. Okay, so I'm still mad about my resume. It's embarrassing. I haven't seen that thing in 8 years. Okay, let's go through the grades. Oh. By the way, I'm also showing my grades because employers do not care about your university transcript or university GPA. We work so hard for these grades and they don't care about it. 2017 fall winter. Okay, computer programming 1, B. Computer programming 2, B. Writing and reading critically, A minus. German for beginners 1, A minus. Calculus 1, D. Yeah, I got a D. Introductory calculus 2, A minus. Foundations, B minus. It's like an introduction to abstract math course. And introduction to linear algebra, A minus. So Calculus 1 was in the fall semester of my first year of university. I got a D. It is the most challenging course because I repeated that course and I did not get a good mark. D is not a passing mark on a course. And the reason why I got a D in calculus, because I take full responsibility of why I got a D, is because I did not understand what makes up a grade. Right?
I went from a D to an A minus in less than 4 months. Do not give up. Your grade does not define you. When you give something your all, you can achieve what you put your mind to. When professors looked at my grades, this is the thing that they notice and point out.
The assignments that you hand in during class every single week, and also for calculus, there's a calculus lab, which there are assignments there that you have to pass. I did not do them or I skipped them and things like that. Also, there's like an online assignment that you have to do. So there's papers, assignments, and then there's like an online assignment that you have to do. All of this contributes to a weight in your final grade. And yeah, I just didn't realize how much they were worth. And after that, I learned my lesson. And I can show you why I learned my lesson, because literally the next semester, which is the winter semester of my first year, I got an A minus in Calculus 2. Studied every single available minute to study calculus, and I love calculus. I took Calculus 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I did Calculus 1 twice, but there's something different about this Calculus 1 class that is extremely difficult compared to the others. And you'll see in a little bit, like the score I got for Calculus 1 again, it wasn't good, but it was passing. Okay, let's go to 2018 fall and winter. So this is my second year. So like all the courses that I'm talking about, like 5 of them are for the fall semester and then 5 of them are in the winter semester. I don't know how universities look like in different countries, but this is how it's set up in Canada. So computer programming 3, A minus, data structures and algorithms, B plus, computer architecture organization 1, B plus, how websites work, A, system analysis and design, B. So all of the courses that I listed just now were computer science courses. So German for beginners 2, A, advanced calculus, B plus, differential equations 1, B. Those 2 are 2 calculus courses, so advanced calculus, differential equations. Probability, science and engineering, B minus. Applied statistics for science, A minus. So my lowest grade was B minus for probability. And I know what professor that was with, because I can't get a good mark in her class. She's tough. And then my highest mark was an A, which was German for beginners. I really enjoyed German. Okay, let's go into my third year, which was 2019 fall and winter. I did finance accounting 1, B plus, finance accounting 2, A, computer architecture 2, B plus, software engineering 1, A minus, computers and society, A minus, data analytics, A minus, AI 1, A plus, and that's the first A plus I got. And database management systems, A, introductory to calculus 1, C plus. Like, I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed about this, okay? I don't know why. By the way, I was taking 6 courses in the fall semester to squeeze this Calculus 1 in. And I just can't believe, like, I got a C plus in Calculus 1. But then in the other 2 upper calculus courses, I got a B plus and a B. It doesn't make sense to me. Yeah, I don't know, because if you know math, like, your knowledge of math is based on previous math concepts. So why didn't I do well? I don't know. Linear algebra 2, B minus. Design and analysis of experiments, A minus, which is a statistics course. Okay, so I did 1 course in the summer. I did basic French 1, which was an A. And I also did a co-op, which is when you add in a work experience for a semester, which is typically like a summer semesters and like 1 fall or winter semester. You have to do 3 to qualify for having a co-op at the end of your degree. And I wanted to graduate like on time with the rest of my peers. That's not the reason why. An upperclassman, she said that she's not finishing her co-op. She's just doing 2 co-op experiences, I guess. And these co-ops are paid, by the way. She said, like, it's just important to have the experience on your resume. And I was like, that makes sense. Having the co-op at the end of your degree is nice and all, but I think having that job experience on your resume in your chosen field is really valuable. So yeah, I did 2 co-op experiences. The first one I did was I was a junior web developer. I just did like front end work for a company that was in the city. So I lived like in a small town. The university was in a small town, and I moved to the city for the summer. And my second co-op experience was during COVID, so I worked from home, and I was a researcher for a data analytics company that's local to the town I was living in. So the grade for the co-op is just a P, which means passing. You also have to like submit reports to the university and stuff and specific assignments. So that's why that's there. So let's go over to my 4th year of university. I got onto the dean's list, which means that you received like a lot of high marks. That's how you get onto the dean's list. So yeah, I'm proud of that. I'm proud that I got on the dean's list. So data communications, I got A+, operating systems A, C++ A, capstone project A+, which is just where we make something like an app or like a report on something. This was for computer science. So I made a web application. Intermediate German 1 A, statistical learning A-. Another statistics class, A-. Generalized linear models, A-. And then 2 philosophy courses. So I took logic and critical thinking, A. Symbolic logic, A-. Yeah, I got all A's. I kind of want to sum up this video, and I just hope like from this video you could see like how I essentially like turn my life around. Not like turn my life around, just like if I'm in the right environment, I think I can do well. And I think I did well, like looking back on my university degree, and I was able to secure the job that I'm working at now. Here is my university degree. I might blur out my last name. And, okay. Bachelor Applied Computer Science, Mathematics, and Statistics in parentheses. Like I said, I switched my double major around to have computer science first so that I could avoid these abstract math courses, which I knew I wouldn't enjoy doing because I'm more of like a application kind of girl. I wasn't just coasting by in my high school years. Any available moment, I would be studying. Like for the SATs, I was studying so much in every single available time I had, which wasn't a lot. Like I didn't have a lot of available time. I always used to say, oh, if you're homeschooled and you are self-disciplined and you're able to learn by yourself through textbooks and resources online, then yes, you can go into university. That is not true. What happened, like I did what I did, not because of homeschooling, but it was in spite of homeschooling. I'm not trying to say that homeschooling is bad. And thankfully, in my regrets video, people saw that I wasn't trashing homeschooling because I'm going to homeschool my own children. I think it is a great way to educate your children when you do it right. Thankfully, I was motivated because first of all, I wanted to be able to get a job when I was older so that I could have my own money. Second of all, I did not want to stay living at home. Like, I did not have a bad home life. It's just not what I wanted. So, yeah, I hustled and worked hard to apply to university, and the mindset that I had was that if I got a really good SAT score, then I'll be able to go into university. But the fact is, I think I had a poor homeschool application. That's why I was rejected by those 3 other universities. Yeah. Those 3 other universities were Dalhousie University, University of Toronto, and like some university in Calgary. You have to study a lot for the SATs. You have to study a lot in general, because even if you lie on your homeschool application, that you would really struggle in university. I thought I was prepared. Like I thought I was studying for the last 3 or 4 years in order to do well at university, and you can see like I really struggled in my first year. Hi, so I wanted to jump in here to explain some things a little bit better. So in high school, if I didn't have this desire to go to university, then it would have been completely fine for me to not study and not do any schoolwork, not read. It would have been completely fine. No one would be asking myself to challenge myself in that way. There would be no one asking me to do schoolwork, basically. No one would have cared if I completed high school. I could have gone on in Indonesia being dependent on my dad, but it would have been extremely hard for me to find a job in Indonesia because all jobs in Indonesia require at least a high school diploma, a real high school diploma, not a homeschooling one. I couldn't even get a job at a convenience store like Alphamart. The only path for me, if I had stayed in Indonesia and I decided not to pursue my studies, was to become an actress in Indonesia, which is actually pretty common for mixed children, so half Indonesian and half different foreign nationality, to become actors. But I didn't want that. That wasn't the path for me. Because of this lack of accountability in our homeschooling environment, my siblings were never able to pursue the SATs. And having the SATs is the minimum you need to apply to universities as a homeschooler. And because they couldn't do the SATs, they never went to university. I'm just talking about I'm one of four, so just the two middle ones. The youngest one is 10 years younger than me, so when I was studying for the SATs back at home, he would have been like 5, 6, 7. I don't want to talk about my siblings too much because I'm not my siblings. They had their own experience, but I do know that they wanted to go to university. And not everyone can scramble the way I did. It's extremely hard as a teenager. And even as adults, I see adults struggle with, they say they want to do things, but then they don't do them because they don't have the self-discipline to do it. And they don't have this inner motivation to do the thing. And it's hard to study for the SATs. It's a very hard exam. And it's hard to study on your own for the other subjects you need. Now, I want to mention that I did enjoy my homeschooling from age 5 to 11. I have wonderful memories of certain lessons, and I did sports and extracurriculars as a kid, like gymnastics. I did Girl Scouts and other things. And I felt like very close to my family when I was a kid. And I'm lucky in the aspect of sports and extracurriculars because my siblings never did any sports or anything like that. So I'm lucky in that aspect. So yeah, I just wanted to say that not everything was bad. Just something happened from when I was 12 to 17 that looking back on, I did not enjoy that experience. And like when I came to Canada to go to university, I was telling myself that, oh, I had a fine high school experience. Like I was fine being homeschooled like that. And it was hard, but it's supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be chaotic and disorganized and not easy to find the resources that you need. And I don't know, in my head, I was thinking my homeschool was hard. It's supposed to be hard. I shouldn't expect it to be any easier. But now looking back and having my own children, actually it's because of having my own children that I'm thinking back to my high school experience and saying, yeah, I don't want to replicate that for my own kids. Now, I want to emphasize that homeschooling gives your homeschooler the opportunity to be independent in their studies. And I think it's extremely important for, as your child gets older, that they're able to study on their own with, like, you don't have to handhold them. For math, it was easy for me. For math, because like my easiest subject, because I could learn the material, do the exercises, and then check in the back of the book to self-correct myself. So I'm not complaining that, I had to self-study. No, I think it's a very important skill, and I'm lucky that I was able to do that and that I have that skill. Because you need that skill at university, and you need that skill in life in general. But the biggest complaint that I have is that I just didn't have a clear roadmap of what I should be learning, and I was just learning in fragments because I didn't have good resources. I didn't always have access to my laptop. That's the thing that was frustrating me, not me learning on my own. And what I mean by me not learning things deeply enough, because I don't like to know a lot of things, but I like to have a particular subject and go deep on it. That's how I like to learn. And I wasn't able to do that during my high school years because my dad would tell like me and my younger brother, who's just a year younger than me, to go learn about a particular topic, very surface based, and then we would just have a conversation about it. And it felt very surface level. And when I say having a conversation, to be honest, it was mostly a one-sided conversation. And this was my dad's main way of homeschooling when I was a high schooler. So having conversations to learn is not the best way for me to learn something. If it is for you, then good for you, but it wasn't enough for me to be studying and learning something. I want to give an example of a homeschooled high schooler that got more support to see what that would look like. So let's say the student wanted to learn biology because he was interested in this topic. So a textbook is picked out that was reviewed by the parent and the student and saw that the explanations are sound, they're good. The student then sets a goal that by the end of this 3-month period, he would understand the following biology topics. He would also create a project or report exploring a topic within biology that interests him and create a presentation with his findings. He would also aim to take a level 1 biology exam to test his knowledge and see if there's any gaps that he would like to explore. He also supplements with reading a nonfiction and fiction biology-related book. He will also watch one documentary and make an infographic about it, and also take a trip to a science museum. He might apply to take a community college course or an online course on the next level of biology. This is just an example of how a high schooled homeschooler is learning by himself, but he has a clear goal of what he needs to do. And he does these projects to make his understanding of biology more concrete because he has to teach it, he has to make a presentation. And yes, I'm saying that I think it's also good I said for the student to take a level 1 biology exam. I don't know what a biology exam would look like. I never studied biology because it wasn't something that interested me. This is just an example because it prepares him for university later. I want to compare that to my experience of being interested in chemistry as a high school student. So I was interested in chemistry as a high school student. I had one chemistry textbook that was really bad, and we just had some encyclopedias that just gave like an overview of certain chemistry topics. I had limited access to my computer, so I couldn't use that to learn chemistry, and I wouldn't even be sure of what to look up at the time. I definitely would have benefited from doing an online course, but at that time I didn't know online courses were a thing, and yeah. Also, my dad didn't know chemistry very well, and he saw that I had this interest in chemistry, and he told me that, oh, are you taking the SAT chemistry subject test? Because there's different subjects that you can just do a test for that branches off from the SATs. I don't know if I'm explaining this right, but there's like an upper level math subject test that you can do that I tried to study for and saw that I just wasn't good to do it, so I didn't do it. I didn't do any subject tests. So yeah, I just wanted to show this good example of having this type of a high school homeschooling experience versus mine, because I don't want you to be thinking that I'm complaining about my self-studying during the high school years. Like I said earlier, in terms of that aspect, I am grateful that I have the skill. Yeah, so I just want to reiterate that it was just the lack of resources and direction and organization, and that kind of made me have a frustrating high school experience. I think that's everything. Oh, and I forgot to mention that I was the president of the Women in Technology Club at university for the last 2 years I was there. There's something that I forgot to mention, and that is from age 5 to 11 for me. My mom and dad were homeschooling all of us. And then from the high school years, only my dad was homeschooling us. He was in charge of homeschooling in general because he has 2 master's degrees, and I guess it was his Like, it was mainly his decision to homeschool us. So he was in charge of homeschooling all of us. Like, he made the decisions of homeschooling related things. And my mom never went to university. She only has a high school diploma. Anyway, that's the end of this video. If you're interested in more of my homeschool experience, I do have a video, like my homeschooling regrets video, that you can check out. And if you want to learn more about the social aspects of my homeschooling experience, I also have videos on those. And if you want to hear me rant about how I really like homeschooling, I do have a video where I talk about how much I like homeschooling, basically, so that people don't think that I don't like homeschooling in this video, because I do. Okay? With that said, I will see you in the next one. Bye. By the way, my final GPA for university was 3.58. Yeah, no one asked for my GPA. Bye. While I say no one cares about your GPA, I don't want to discourage students who are watching this that have a 4-point-something GPA. You can include it on your LinkedIn profile where you write down like your education and say that you got this specific GPA. But if you did not have like an outstanding mark in GPA, then don't mention it on your resume, don't mention it on your LinkedIn. But if you did perform really well, then put it on your LinkedIn or resume. Like right next to where you went to university. That was a tip I watched on YouTube on GPAs on... Yeah, anyway, okay, bye.